In my last video, we talked about how to make this simple wire-wrapped ring. I realized that I kind of glanced over an incredibly important part of the process: how to make sure it's true to size. If you haven't already seen the first video, go ahead and pause this video and come back to it after seeing the first section. At this point, I already have the shank preformed, I have our 18 gauge half round bent in half, and a stone that's similar in size to our original ring. Now for this project, I'm going to create a size 7 on this mandrel. The first step is to form the shank. I usually do it a little bit smaller than the actual size of the ring that I'm looking for, and bend it to form, so that that half-hard wire can kind of form a little bit smaller, and then stretch it up to the size that I need. It's a little bit tricky to hold it to tension and be able to measure it for you, but I want you to notice this distance between the two endings of the half round on the shank. I want that distance to be about 2 millimeters bigger than the size of my stone. Now this stone is about 7¼ millimeters. And if I can hold the shank tight, it's at about 9¼ millimeters, so exactly what I'm looking for. I don't usually use a caliper to actually measure that distance. Most of the time I just kind of eyeball it. And if I place the stone right in the center, you can kind of see just a little bit of exposed wire on either side of the wrapped shank. That's usually what I'm looking for. I went ahead and wrapped our 18 gauge half round around both sides of the shank. To see a little bit more of that process, go back to the first video. Now to make sure this is true to size, I slide it onto the mandrel until I get to the size that I'm looking for. I shouldn't really have huge gaps of half round on either side. In this case, I've got a little bit extra on this side, but it's not enough to worry about. So I'm going to go ahead and call this it. Tighten it to size. I pull one end so that the 18 gauge half round and the 22 gauge half round of the shank are flush together on the inside and the outside. And I'm going to use these square wires on the outside to lock that into size by bending them straight up. That 90-degree angle will prevent it from slipping on that side. I'm going to check again to make sure that it's still the size that I'm looking for. And I'm going to bend these ones at a 90 as well to lock everything in place. So here we go, size 7. The shank is connected and the stone is ready to be set, and we can decorate the face. Now wire wrapping does have a little bit of give to it, so if it comes out a little bit smaller than you're hoping, you can usually slide it down the mandrel to size it up just a touch. There we go. I hope this helps clear up some of the confusion from my first video on how sizing works. Obviously you'd need more wire for a larger size ring and maybe a little bit less than I used in the video for something smaller than a 7. Both of these rings were a 7, so I used the same measurements for these two. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments and consider subscribing for more content similar in the future.